Hello Skillr Boxers. Today we are going to make the fight dirty. While clean boxing can be beautiful, dirty boxing is an art too. We'll break down exactly what is considered dirty boxing, as opposed to illegal, and understand the sneaky ways boxing veterans get away with it. Before we get into the specifics of every single technique, we need to establish what we mean by dirty boxing. Let's imagine a line that represents the actions of a boxing match. At the beginning of the line are all the legal actions. Boxing in its purest form. Clean hits with the knuckle part of the glove to the front of the head and the front of the body. At the end of the line, we would have all illegal actions, what we wouldn't consider boxing, like wrestling or biting. Professional boxing fights are usually in the middle. The more to the left you go, the cleaner the actions, and the more to the right, the dirtier. Well, the actions we will cover are right in this spot. And to better understand the distinctions between dirty and illegal, we will be guiding ourselves through the APBC rules, which is the Association of Professional Boxing Commissions. So let's start with the first technique. Smother. Smothering is a technique that consists of closing the distance with the opponent, not leaving them space to punch effectively or generate any power. When we look at point 1.38 letter F, it states that wrestling or roughing will not be permitted during a contest. As with a lot of these rules, the definitions are open, and it is hard to say when an action constitutes roughing. However, smothering is usually permitted. Smothering is often used when you are against the ropes and the opponent is pressing you. It can be a good way to cut the action and give yourself some time to breathe.
And a clean shot, don't fight so much on the inside. You get your punches smothered. Exactly what we were saying last round.
It is usually done from a more bladed stance, using the opportunity of an opponent's miss and with a quick step forward closing the gap. From there, it is often used to work on the inside or transition to a clinch. Smothering can also unbalance the opponent and give you the opportunity to work to the body while he's in an unstable position.
Mikkel Kessler, the champion in the
pushes and frames, space. Pushes can come in any form and are a technique used to move the opponent away.
That was probably his biggest blow, but who had upset Victor, came up in weight, made the pay much of a challenge, and he knocked him out.
Frames are a technique where a fighter uses their arm, forearm or glove to control their opponent's position, create space, or set up punches, especially in close range or clinch situations.
One man has beaten Canelo Alvarez. That's a great Floyd Mayweather just hitting him, just that will. And he's a bigger guy.
This technique could fall again under section 1.38F, which prohibits roughing and also shouldering. Again, it is hard to determine what shouldering constitutes, but it is more directed at shoulder strikes in the clinch, which are definitely illegal. On the other hand, while excessive pushing or the use of frames aggressively can get called out, it is often allowed. Both pushes and frames have a common objective, which is to create space with the opponent. In the case of pushes, it can be done in the form of pushing with both arms to get some time to breathe, or to destabilize the opponent. It can also be done with the lead hand extended. In other instances, pushes come in the form of shoulder bumps. The shoulder bump is used at close range to create space to punch. With the shoulder and the help of the elbow and legs, you quickly drive forward, pushing the opponent back and creating space for a punch. It is usually done in a very subtle and quick motion. Frames can also be used to create space and opportunities for punches. However, they also have other uses. Pressure boxers will often use frames to prevent an opponent from clinching, or to break up a clinch. By framing with the forearm, they are able to break the opponent's posture and disengage the clinch. Again, it can be used to create space while the opponent is in an unstable position. Frames will also pin the opponent's guard so they cannot punch. All at once, it pins the opponent's guard, breaks his posture, and creates space for your punches. Before moving on to the next technique, we wanted to share an update from our sponsor, HBOBoxing, a powerful all-in-one training app designed to help you develop into a complete fighter. Choose from dozens of skill-based training modules, drill with structure, and get into fighting shape anywhere. You can find the framing techniques discussed here, as well as a collection of essential skills and training patterns inside of the motion capture library. Download HBOBoxing training and master the sweet science. Controls. In this case, we are referring to controls after missing punches, which is a technique used to prevent counter punches after throwing a punch, usually by pushing, pulling, or pinning the opponent's guard. In this case, we would be looking at the same rule under section 1.38f, but as controls are less aggressive, they are usually not called out. As mentioned, when missing or even landing a shot, especially one that makes you overextend, the control will help you prevent a counter. The most common way is to use the same hand that was used to punch to then pin the opponent's guard. This way, they cannot punch effectively. In other instances, pushes or pulls can also prevent counters, getting the opponent out of the way. Bull rushing, rubbing the head. Bull rushing is an aggressive charge forward with the head down and in front. On the other hand, rubbing with the head refers to the use of the head to move the opponent's head into uncomfortable positions. We will be looking again at rule 1.38 letter F, specifically the part about butting or careless use of the head. The rulebook is very clear here and does not allow these techniques. But the problem, as always, is the difficulty of judging intentionality or defining careless use. A headbutt can be unintentional, and the judgment of how careless an action is will always be subjective and up to the referee's decision. However, there are many fighters that get away with these techniques.
Punches from both fighters in round.
Now, bull rushing is probably one of the rougher techniques and is often used to close the gap and overwhelm the opponent. The objective can be to make the opponent second guess himself, put him on a defensive posture, make him uncomfortable, or directly cause a cut. Once the gap is closed, the head can be used to disrupt the opponent's posture and balance.
Make the mistake, and he would make the pay.
To the scorekeepers, because it doesn't appear there's going to be any knockout in this fight.
Well, considering how this
in the Hall of Fame careers.
Using the head is quite common on the inside. It is often used by shorter fighters in the clinch, using a low posture. The low posture is more stable and leaves fewer openings, allowing you to control the head of the opponent. Controlling the head is an effective maneuver in the clinch. By controlling your opponent's axis, even if he finds an opportunity, he will not be able to throw punches with proper mechanics and power.
That's different. No, it's very not good for you.
Head pulls. The head pull is a technique used to grab an opponent's head and pull it down. Same as before, and with most techniques, this one would fall under section 1.38f. Head pulls are quite common, but they do get called out. This is again a technique used at close range and in the clinch. The purpose is to neutralize the opponent's offense and especially to frustrate him. This can be a very uncomfortable position to be in. So by pulling his head down, you are draining his energy little by little. This would be the counterpart to the last point, as it is often used by the taller boxer when in the clinch. The higher posture allows him to easily pull or push the opponent's head down and break his posture. Clinch work. The work in the clinch is the intent to keep punching and boxing even while in the clinch. In this case, we have to take a look at section 1.38 letter J, which calls a foul for failing to break when so ordered, or striking or attempting to strike an opponent on the break. Here, the interpretation of the rule is key. The rule implies that there is an order by the referee. However, it does not make reference to any action prior to that. So all the time while the referee is not giving instructions on the clinch, you can keep working.
Uppercuts by Ward now. Jolting Dawson. Is he capable?
This point is well understood by boxers like Lomachenko.
It's normal. Then you stay in the clinch and work. And then when referees say something, you need to react. But if he stay quiet and don't say nothing, I need still continue working.
Most boxers will simply hold in the clinch and wait for the break. You can use this to catch them by surprise and connect short shots in the clinch. Those punches can hurt the opponent and give you an edge.
Lubrication there, you need Vaseline. Lewis lands an uppercut. Punch will finish him. Can he hold on for another 20 seconds? Not a lot of room in the ring for them not to cover up and start grabbing and clinch. Lewis landing. And for the moment, Lewis looks punched out.
Even on the break, the rule references the referee's order to break. However, it does not cover the natural break. When you or the opponent break the clinch to disengage, that's also an opportunity to strike, and you should be aware of your opponent's intentions too.
You know, and be versatile, it'll be Andre. I mean, he's known.
Let him go. Your hands are free, fellas.
Stepping, tripping. Stepping or tripping on the foot, as the name suggests, is done by placing your foot over the opponent's foot and pressing on it, or putting it to the side to make him stumble. In this case, there are no explicit rules about stepping on the foot. However, we must remember section 1.38 letter M, which states that any conduct the referee may deem foul will not be permitted. This is one of those cases, as referees will often call it out. However, it is really difficult to interpret when it is being done intentionally and when by accident, as it is also hard to see. Especially when facing the opposite stance, there will constantly be foot battles with the lead foot. Tripping the opponent can be done by putting the foot next to him and either by a punch, push or pull, move him in that direction to make him stumble. In some occasions, referees may not see it, and it can even be called as a knockdown. Also, by stepping on the opponent's foot, you can cause him to lose balance and overextend, leaving him vulnerable. Grabbing and hitting. Grabbing and hitting, as the name suggests, is done by grabbing the opponent's head with one hand and punching him in the opposite direction with the other.
Nothing's really going on. Moises was pushing.
Wonderful uppercut as well, and a left hand after the bell.
Here's another form of wrestling, roughing and holding described in section 1.38F. This is a sneaky way to work at close range, and it's often difficult to detect by referees, as it can be easily hidden with transitions from punches or by working in the clinch. As mentioned, this is often used off a transition from a punch.
We just can't run. But Chavez has him against the ropes, but Camacho.
For example, after missing a hook, it can be used as a transition to grab the back of the head and throw an uppercut while holding. This is especially effective as the opponent cannot escape the position due to the grip. It is usually done by grabbing the back of the head and punching with uppercuts.
Sandler held and hit with his left.
In other cases, it can be done by holding on one side and punching from the other. Blinds. Lastly, blinds are a technique done by using the inside of the glove or the knuckle part to cover the opponent's vision. This could also fall under the referee's discretion to consider it foul or not. In this case, the amount of contact, the roughness of it, as well as the referee's own interpretation will determine if they call it a foul or not. At long distance and with little contact, it rarely gets called out. However, at close distance and with more contact, it can be called out. Blinds are extremely effective as they handicap your opponent's ability to predict and react to punches. By covering their vision, you can exploit openings and surprise the opponent with unexpected shots. The rougher the blind, the more effective, but also the more likely to get called out.
Steve's almost done here. Look at this. There's another going and he's down.
Dirty boxing is the combination of all of these techniques put together into a rough fighting style. Now, we don't condone fighting outside of the rules of boxing, but it is true that some rules are not that clear or concise, and many are left to the referee's interpretation. For instance, in section 1.38 letter H, it clearly states that persistently ducking below the opponent's waistline will not be permitted. Now, if this rule were taken more strictly, we wouldn't have masterpieces like this. So, it is important to let the fight play out naturally, but at the same time to keep it a boxing match. But still, we want to know your opinion in the comments. Where do you draw the line? Should referees be stricter in some areas and more permissive in others? Let us know. And if the video was interesting, you can find more on our channel. And to your left, we've chosen a video that we thought you may like.